GBS.
Good evening and welcome to The Insight. My name is Eugene Ochieng and this is The Insight, where we get to delve deeply into issues that affect you one-on-one through, of course, the lenses of different stakeholders. Today we are espousing on the finance bill, getting to look at it generally from the eyes of our stakeholders. And of course, we don't do this alone. I have three guests here with me. The first guest is Olianga Kevin, who is a Secretary General, Conservative Roundtable Association. Olianga Kevin is the Secretary General, Roundtable Association. Can you maybe tell our viewers, what is this Roundtable Association for those who do not understand?
Thank you so much. Conservative Roundtable basically is what we can say is a center-left organization. Mm-hmm. We are looking into youth policy. Mm-hmm. We want to deepen the involvement mm-hmm. of youth in decision-making by our leaders. Mm-hmm. We've realized that a lot of decisions that are being made outside the participation of the 62% of this nation. Uh-huh. Yes.
You see, when you talk about roundtable association, someone might think men from the Western might think something different. But anyway, Beatrice Kairu is our second guest on politics and governance. Of course, is not the first time she's here with us. This is almost the third or fourth time she's here with us to discuss the finance bill. And of course, our another guest is Justus Jura, who is a lawyer and an economist, also here with us in the building. Thank you so much, Wakili, for joining us for this debate. Ladies and gentlemen, this conversation begins tonight and this very moment. But again, the big question on the finance bill, we have so many contentious issues, and I want us to espouse this to the Kenyan people. But before this, maybe if I can just give Wakili to start off us, and tell us maybe the progress of this finance bill. Where are we, and what is the progress generally, and the procedures of a bill, even if it's not a finance bill, but where are we in this finance bill? What is the progress? And yeah.
Okay, thank you, Eugene. The progress, of course, you know my political orientation, so answering this I would be more a disinterested party. Mm-hmm. Talking from a professional point of view, mm-hmm. Of course, most of these bills are supposed to be passed by Parliament, mm-hmm. and they have to go through certain stages. Mm-hmm. And most importantly is that there is a committee that is in charge, mm-hmm. who is supposed to undertake public participation, mm-hmm. hear people's views, mm-hmm. and once that has been done, mm-hmm. they go back and table the bill to the rest of the members of Parliament, mm-hmm. so that they can consider it, mm-hmm. to pass it or reject it. Mm-hmm. Before, if it is passed, then it goes to the President, mm-hmm. of course, for President to assent, and after that it becomes an act of Parliament, mm-hmm. and ought to then operate accordingly going forward. Mm-hmm. So, as it is a matter that is currently contentious. Mm-hmm. As different political views are registered against the same, mm-hmm. there is a faction that feels that the government intends to overtax Kenyans against the optimal principle of taxation. Mm-hmm. And for the Kenya Kwanza government, mm-hmm. of course, in bid to do what is within the best interest of the president, mm-hmm. they, of course, had done their PG meeting. Mm-hmm. And I'm informed reliably that during that meeting, they were asked, mm-hmm. to pass that particular bill. Okay. So right now, mm-hmm. there is two factions. There's a faction that is the government faction, mm-hmm. Which want the bill passed. Okay. But there is also the dissenting opinion of the opposition side. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get a chance to explain what it means to optimal principle of taxation, or these basic principles of taxation. You will tell us. But let me go to you, Olianga, to maybe tell us your overview on this finance bill. Generally, what do you make of it?
I'll take an aspect of a bipartisan approach, because I want to look at it in terms of its impact to the majority of this country who are youth. And I'll start by saying that the greatest wealth of a nation is its human resource. And when you are considering tax, you must consider how you can be able to grow this human resource. You cannot come up with a taxation that is, its objective is just to increase the amount you want on your side without the consideration of the growth of the nation itself. And by that, what I mean is that we have a system of double taxation in this country. We have a continuous system of what we call punitive tax measures, which have been put across that are really not practical in a sense. But the reason why this is done is because the government has failed to increase what we call the tax base. I'll give you an analogy. It's like having a match between Gor Mahia and FC in a field, and you want to charge 300 shilling for a gate fee. Probably only 5,000 people will come. You get. But if you are to lower that to 50 shilling, then 50,000 people will come. And you'll make much more money. You get, by increasing the tax base. What do I mean? Paying tax is a duty of a citizen. And we love to support our country and our government in terms of service delivery by paying tax. But just choosing a small corner or a small end of the population where you have to tax and overtax has not been working for us. Yes. So the question we should be having is how can we involve everyone to pay tax in a moderate way than having what is being tabled now in Parliament. Yes.
Okay. Beatrice Kairu, maybe as you give us your overview on this finance bill.
Yes.
We understand that Kenya Kwanza had actually campaigned on some basic principles under the bottom-up economic approach.
Yes.
From where you sit, you look at the bottom-up economic agenda generally, and you juxtapose it to the finance bill that we have.
Yes.
And we understand that the bottom-up economic approach was to ensure that those at the lower cadre, the hoi polloi, the common man, was the person who was actually to benefit more.
Yes.
Is that the case in this finance bill?
No, I don't think so. Actually, the finance bill is more of a reactionary action by the government, which is very detrimental, because we look at some of the things that even the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza government, some of the things that is now being tabled in this finance bill were actually not part and parcel of it. And when you look at it, is that this finance bill is not actually addressing the key issues that have been affecting the common mwananchi. The government is just trying to look for extra money so as to solve their deficit, and they are not explaining to the people where this deficit went. So in a reaction, it's action reaction. So in an act of a reaction, they're trying to see how can they cover up where there has been deficit, and they're looking to tax each and everything. And one thing this government is not realizing is that the more you exert a lot of taxes on individuals, the more people will exempt from taxes because they will feel overburdened. And case scenario is that, for example, when they increased the tax for airtime, I think it was around the year 2020. Today, as we speak, around 7 billion has been lost by KRA. Why? Because when you increase taxes, people tend to avoid. So either people readjust, whereby you decide not to be using airtime or not to be calling, because now more of that amount of money is being transferred to the consumer. So every time the government comes with taxes, it all goes down to the consumer. It's not even actually the multinationals being affected, because it just transferred to the consumer. So I wish they had sat to look for other ways of raising revenue, but this finance bill, when you look at it, it's purely on a reactionary mode. Yes.
Okay. Wakili, of course, you also double up as an economist. You talked about optimal principle of taxation. Maybe you can tell us the issues with this, with how the government is actually taxing its Kenyans. They have given cases in point of other countries like South Africa, where they are actually, those people are actually the KRA. I don't know the KRA of their, but the revenue, the revenues authorities of maybe South Africa or even other countries, Western countries, are actually getting more compared to the GDP. Yeah, 22 to 25. That is in South Africa. That was the president giving a case in point compared to that of Kenya, which is around 19. They also talked about the West actually. They tax their people more. And you look at Kenya, Kenyans are taxed less. When you talk about optimal principle of taxation, you also talked about double taxation and also punitive taxes, which actually Raila Odinga had talked about earlier in the year, that the government were actually putting punitive taxes on Kenyans. What are these?
Well, thank you. First, allow me to agree with the previous speakers about their positions in respect of the taxation. The objective of taxation is very clear in the eyes of people who want to run a country, that it is a way that you can raise the country revenue. So one way of raising that revenue is to purely rely on taxation before you even go to the public debt. Now, where Kenya Kwanza finds it wrong is misrepresentation of facts and also misapplication of models. The moment you are saying, let us apply what has been applied in another country, it means you are bringing a model that you do not know its tenets. Models ought to be scientific in nature. I always reiterate this, that if it is an economic model and you're saying the country's output should be a function of consumption, should be a function of government expenditure, a balance of payment, etc., based on maybe what I would term as the Keynesian model, then you have, to go to people, involve them, and test some of these things. Do regulatory analysis that is thorough, that is policy-based, so that you know the position that you stand in as a nation. So going forward, as you come up with now what I call the optimal taxation system, which Kenya Kwanza government tends to be implementing, but predicated on, false information, is that you can intend, which is an objective intention anyway, to raise public revenue collection. But how do you do that? The gentleman here has reiterated clearly that the best way is just to open the tax base instead of going for the tax rate. How many people in this country do not pay tax? Are our tax policies all inclusive? What nature do they take? So the Kenya Kwanza government want to obtain optimal collection of taxation by collecting as much as they can from KRA, but that one is wrongly grounded. That is on one aspect. The other aspect of it is the aspect of double taxation that they are talking about. There are elements of double taxation, some of which were actually there in our tax laws, which I think need to be revised because some of them are actually unconstitutional. Yeah, so those ones need to be revised and they need to be harmonized accordingly moving forward. As it stands, our taxation system, which is proposed by this government, are frivolous in nature. They are arbitrary and they do not, go well with the interest of our people. These people are already suffering. You cannot tax somebody who does not have anything to give. Yeah, it is against salient principles of taxation. And lastly, some of the canons of taxation is the principle of economic principle, that as you bring taxation to the people, you must bring tax that people are able to pay. Where they are unable to raise that taxation is punitive in nature and ought to be shut down as possible. Yes.
Okay. Maybe your 2 cents on this, sir?
My addition to what my brother Wakili has said is that my belief, and I believe the belief of so many youths in this country, because I think we've been silent for long, is that the best way to increase tax or revenue for the nation is to grow wealth for its people. Direct. Let me give you an example. We have over 800,000 youths that graduating from university to the market, job market. Only 10 or 15% are in the formal sector, joining the formal sector. The other maybe 10 to 15% are in formal sector in an innovative way. The rest are idling, either in drugs or something related to that. So what do I mean? We can increase what we call the internship. We can make it permanent, that we must have 30% internship, paid internship, for the government
Okay.
as an employee workforce, and even the private sector, so that when you give them the minimum wage, of course it's now at 16,000. So many of them in the industrial area and so many places in their job, they are not even earning that 16,000. So by that, you affect the purchasing power. And if you affect the purchasing power, you affect what you get in terms of excess duty. So because government cannot collect enough excess duty, because people have low purchasing power, they are resorting to what is, I can call a quick fix. That's, let's take money from those who are earning 500,000 and above.
Okay, we're going to come to that.
Thank you so
But
much.
Kairu, we understand that this Finance Bill 2023
Yes.
proposed actually a number of taxes to expand the tax base
Yes.
and raise revenues, because we have an ambitious budget
Yes.
of around 3.6 trillion.
Yes.
That is 2024
Yes.
budget. Well, my question is, do you think that these changes that have been made are actually effective to ensure that we actually meet this target? And where are we even financially as Kenyans? Because we have around 6 days to go
Yeah.
for the 2022-2023
Yeah.
finance
Yes.
by budget, actually, for us to start another one, that is 2023-2024. Where are we? How much do we have in our treasury? And where are we going to get the rest if we don't have them? Because we understand also that Kenya Kwanza government actually campaigned on the basis that they will not continue going for debts.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. First and foremost, we must understand that when the Kenya Kwanza government took power, we know the scandal that arose with Okuyu Yotani, the former treasurer, Treasury, CS for Treasury, whereby 3 weeks towards the new government coming in, funds were being withdrawn right, left, and center. That is detrimental, because definitely if someone has withdrawn 6 billion or another person has withdrawn 5 billion, another 15 billion, obviously when you're a new government and you come into power, that definitely will put you at a deficit. Even before you talk about the interest on the debts that we have, that already is already a deficit. Now, when you look at the way now Kenya Kwanza has come on board, they are trying to compensate for that deficit. We have already noticed how salaries were delayed for the first time. County governments are already raising alarms that for the last 4 months they have not received any money, which has never been heard of. But you understand when you find people have already withdrawn a lot of money, and some of them trying to account for them, you don't know where it is. Definitely you ask yourself, where are you getting more money? On the other hand, remember that now investors, remember the shilling is also now falling. Now it's around at 140. It's trading at 140. Investors are withdrawing because of the weakening shilling. So when more investors are withdrawing, what happens? So where the government was getting revenue, where the government was getting a little bit of income, now has also declined. So when you look at now the government, where it is being put at a point, where do we get this little money so that we can be able to give pay our recurrent? Because actually what is disturbing the current guy is actually the recurrent. Right now they are not even focusing more on development. They're looking at the recurrent expenditures, because 4 months salaries have not been paid, and even the civil servant right now, it was a little bit lower. So when you look at it, they are trying to go for the already low-lying hanging fruit. You who is earning around 500,000, another one who is making money through digital content and all that. But they are forgetting that once they bring in this taxation on board, what happens is people hide. Yeah, people become creative on how to run away from the government. I've just given you a case scenario of how airtime happened. So when KRA thought it's going to collect more money based on an increase in airtime data increment, which was increased from 15% to 20%, but now in the current bill they have gone back to 15%. When they expected they are going to earn more, they actually lost 7 billion. Why? Because people always have a way of readjusting. So when you tell people right now on exercise duty, now we have sugar is already going to 500 shillings, isn't it? So what will most people do? They will stop taking sugar. They will just refuse to take sugar. So as my brother had said, so where the government was going to make money from excise duty, now people are no longer consuming that product. They have decided to forgo it because people are readjusting. So those people who are staying in towns have decided now to go back to the village. Why? Because they are downsizing, hoping that the economy is going to grow. And what happens is KRA will end up now making even more losses. So come the year 2024, KRA will not have met its targets because people are already going to shy away from it. Then the other thing is that the president, they are not understanding that. I agree with my brother. You cannot go bring other models from outside and then you come and bring it to your country. That cannot go because change is gradual. But we must understand, has he closed the loopholes of where these funds used to get lost or where these funds used to get wasted? For example, we saw a I think it's a CS, the PS, the one who was in Ministry of Health. She was going with a whole lot of people who are going to be given per diem. That is a part of wastage. And even David D himself, he said a lot of wastage is happening in government. So when the public realizes there's so much wastage going on, why should I pay taxes? If I know if I pay my taxes, it is going to pay for someone's girlfriend going to Dubai because she's going to earn per diem. Why would I pay taxes when somebody is hiring her makeup artist? Why is all these wastages? So because of that, and these are things that are being highlighted by Kenyans, it means I will rather hide my money, or when I report my filing of returns, I will lie. I will say nil on return, and yet I made my millions, because I'm saying instead of me giving this government where these roads are still not being built, when if I go to the hospital, the doctor has not been paid salary for the last 4 months, equipments are not working, why should I pay taxes? So I think Kenyan Kwanza government should have gone a little bit slow, maybe stuck with the former kind of budget, then close the loopholes. If they have goodwill for Kenyans, close first the loopholes. Show Kenyans your goodwill. You know, it's what's called political goodwill. Once you prove to us, I think every Kenyan would feel very patriotic, because if my money is going to be used in the correct way, why not pay government? And that is the difference with other countries where you're saying that they're highly taxed. I think even Belgium, the tax is almost at 50%. But they don't mind paying 50% because when they walk in, they find a very fully equipped hospital. The roads are repaired on time. Yes.
Okay, Kairu.
Yeah.
Maybe if I give a chance to Wakili. Wakili, maybe you can tell us. We actually, it's a question actually posed to Kairu, also about, we have a budget of 3.6 trillion, which we need to actually, that is the budget of this government. Where are we with that? What is the progress of that money? Because how much do we have already? And where are we going to get the rest according to that finance bill?
Okay, the capital structure of a country, of course, is a function of two things. There is the tax collection, which now compound itself to national revenue or public financing. And then there is the debt financing, which is basically found through international financial institutions coming in to give us those funds that we need then to repay back. Some of them are concessional loans. Some of them come with some interest. So that is the way it is done. So where the collection pursuant to KRA is not adequate enough, then now we replenish that based on debt financing. And that is the capital structure of how our nation is. What I can say here is that this particular government lacked what we call philosophy. That is what I can say. As you get into leadership, you need to have certain aspects of philosophy, what you are identified with, that people can say, this government, this is what they believe in. They did well when they got into power. They said they are a bottom-up government. And now the tenets that now defines them are actually at variance with what a bottom-up is supposed to be. They are now operating as the people at the top of pyramid who have deserted people at the bottom of the pyramid, which is actually against the very philosophy that they had actually inculcated in people at the beginning of their campaigns. So to make me conclude that someone must have run away with their manifesto. They do not have their manifesto. They are now implementing what they do not know, and they are doing guesswork. They are doing trial and error, or what mathematicians would say they are using Pythagoras theorem to try to solve economic problems of this nation. So if, again, I do have tremendous respect for my good friend David Ndii. As an economist, he's somebody who has inspired us before. But I think it is high time he should come out clear and tell this government that the models that they are trying to apply are wrong models. They are pure wrong models. It needs to tell these people to apply the correct models that can relate well with the people of Kenya. These people need to be empowered, upon which now you ask them to pay tax. But you cannot take away, all the time you're taking away from them.
Okay.
All the time you want to take away from them, and there is nothing you are giving them back in return.
Okay. Kiongozi, we are taking a very quick short break, but when we'll be right back, there's an issue you talked about the youth actually. And the president has mentioned times that number that they have an agenda to create opportunities, employment opportunities for the youth through the 3% contribution by employees and employers. The question will be, is it a tax? What exactly it is? Because actually he maintains that they have to actually I don't know how to say, whether to say file or what, but we are taking a very quick short break. 21144 is our SMS line. Thank you for staying with this live broadcast, and please continue engaging us. My name is, you will find us at our socials at GBS TV Africa, at Eugene Ochieng. Thank you.
Kuna fire extinguisher huko.
Prices za sukari bana zimepanda.
Classify myself as the quiet one.
The quiet side.
Listen more, but talk less.
Guys, mko ready for today's games? Are you ready? Champena hapo hivyo nyuma mbai pick it.
Unajua kama ni mkisi una option. Black men don't cheat. Wacha nishike.
Mimi nakwambia mimi wacha nioe hiyo mwezi moja.
Ah no, hapana.
Alafu kiniboni kuongezee mwingine.
You see? No, you see guys, you see the kind of people we are dealing with nowadays.
That's a bit racist.
No way. You see reverse psychology. You are not that is not being. Twendeni home. Tufungeni hizi kamera twende home. Tufunge twende home.
What is mental health? What is depression? Why are people in our society falling a victim of the two?
One, you can't really know when somebody is experiencing this disease, because it's not like malaria whereby the signs can be seen.
The first step is to be able to differentiate between mental health and mental illness, because mental health is a state of well-being and mental illness is illness as it is.
What are the roles of friends, families, and the society should they play when it comes to issues to do with mental wellness, illness, and maybe health in general?
Some of the ways you can help someone without being a professional, like say at a friendship level or even a family level, is being there for that person.
How now do you even start to walk this journey with this person? Well, maybe this person who is going through it is not ready to open up.
So you're told that a change of mindset needs to be there. First off, challenges are also good. There's change, then after moving from change, there's challenge.
So it's a collective duty for everyone from family and friends to be able to reach out.
We need to be open that this thing is there, and we need to find ways that we can calm the situations.
Now, I've been accused by many people of being the happiest person they've met. And they're always asking me, don't you ever get angry? And I'm like, I do get angry, but I have learned how to regulate and how to be happy in every circumstance. Happiness. Happiness comes from this state of happenings. You know, it has to be brought by something, but that's not true. You can create your own happiness. Putting too much pressure and too much expectations on other people is going to set you up to not be happy. I want to introduce you to one more thing that you must absolutely avoid. You must do what you've been called by God to accomplish. I want to encourage you to look deep inside you and find what is the thing you like to do, what is the thing you do well and you enjoy doing. And with that, you'll be able to know this is a gifting that I have, and you'll feel more fulfilled, you'll feel more purposeful, you'll feel more, you feel like you're achieving more, even if your current situations don't allow it. But you know what I've learned? That everyone is on their own journey. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and God loves you so, so much. I pray that you can see that He did a good job making you, and that you'll appreciate yourself and love yourself even more and be able to, share now that love with others. Because it first starts with loving yourself, and then you can love others. So do that from a place of abundance.
Everywhere, GBS.
Insight. Kiongozi, we were talking about a very highly contentious issue, and that is on the housing levy. And the government has proposed a 3% contribution by employees and employers, respectively, to finance affordable housing.
Yes.
And actually, if you can just tell us, because the president has even said that this will help create job opportunities and will help to solve certain issues and economic issues actually that is facing the country right now. Isn't this the time now for the youth to actually embrace and back up this project by the government?
I'm grateful for what Wakil has said. He has reminded me, I had an opportunity to meet then the Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto. I'm born and raised in Busia Marachi, jobless corner. So we had a discussion around the youth. And his ideas were good. I don't know what has happened. Maybe Wakili has a point that maybe they have lost their manifesto, I don't know. But going straight to your point, which is housing levy, these are hidden tax. And I'll tell you for sure, what has been running in this country for the longest is what we call money apartheid policy against the youth. What do I mean? Number one, we have stagnating salaries for young people in this country for the last decade, where private companies make money, they grow their portfolio, the dividends is shared to the directors and to the senior most management, while the young people who are struggling to bring this growth get nothing in return. So you find what we can call the inflation is now double-digit, nearly 10% to 12%. People cannot afford to buy what they used to buy five years ago. You get youth cannot buy.
Okay.
So when I'm coming to housing, you are now telling me first I cannot afford to buy the necessity that I used to buy 5 years ago. But now you are telling me that I give you 3% of that salary so that you can build me a house. My brother, that's fallacy. Because if you want me to own a home, it is simple. We have what you call Kenya mortgage.
Again, Kiongozi, before you go on,
yes,
I think the president made it clear, and actually he reiterated that he was asking Kenyans who are jobless that they're telling you to actually deny this or maybe frustrate this progress, yet you do not have a what? Do not have a salary. So is this only for the civil servants, or who are these people paying 3%?
The 3% is being paid by anybody who has a salary.
Thank you.
So if I'm in the private sector, my boss I'm cut 3% of what I'm earning, and my boss tops up 3%. Now, the only bone of contention right now, KNBS, the one that collects data on behalf of the government, connoted that 80% of Kenyans own homes, all have houses. So they are wondering from what point of view was Kenya Kwanza government advised to come up that Kenyans need houses to be constructed. Remember, 80% of the Kenyans own homes. Now the question that now they're asking, why
80% of Kenyans own homes?
No, have a house. Okay. Yeah, they don't live outside. Okay. Then everyone has when the research was done, someone somewhere has a place they go to sleep. So it is not a necessity. Actually, what needed to have been addressed is market factors of supply and demand, because these are the ones that affect construction. For example, the tax you impose on cement, the tax you impose on quarry of the, building materials. These are the ones, once they go up, what happens? The construction of homes actually increase. So KNBS was saying, if 80% of Kenyans already have a place they go to sleep, why is it an urgency right now? So, and then on the other issue of saying that it is going to create jobs for youths. Now, him is a lawyer. Are you telling me the lawyer is now going to be employed on the construction site? 4,000 doctors were saying they are jobless. Are the 4,000 doctors going to be employed to building and construction?
Yes, you actually, I was on my point, and thank you so much, Beatrice, for your addition. My point is straight. If you want us to own a home, affordable home, and youth want to own it, we have what you call Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. That is a policy, it's an act of parliament. And its work is supposed to finance SACCOs or banks to give loan, affordable loan, to the youth. What the government can do now, if they want us to own home, is to work closely with the SACCO to do what we call equity release, where you give youth a certain loan directly to build their home, because youths have shamba. They have their small shamba somewhere, and they can build their own affordable house that is ranging between 800,000 to 1.5 million. Why tell me to give you 3%, which, do your math, 3% of 100,000 is 3,000. Tell me, my brother, when will you build me this 1.5 million worth of a house? You get? So these are Cornish, I believe so, and these are hidden tax. And just to finalize on my point, it's not only low-cost housing levy that is also making us have a pinch. Let me give an example of NHIF. The government has failed to involve the informal sector in contribution to the NHIF. Only nearly around 3.5 million people in this country are paying NHIF. But majority of those who go to hospital and have their the expenditure in hospital waived from government hospitals are people in the informal sector who does not have an NHIF card. There was a proposal to have 500 be deducted. Where is it? Why are we not having these people on board?
Okay, it's only the civil servants and those in the private sector who are going to be levied this 3%, if I get it right. So it means that those people who work in the informal sectors, the Juakali industries and what, are not going to pay for this.
They don't have data.
They don't have the data for the informal sector.
Yes. Even those will pay.
Yes.
Because this is a gambling. Like, I love Wakili word. These people have thrown away their manifesto through the window. So what they're doing is gambling. I'm sorry to say so. Because there's no serious plan in this thing called housing.
Wakili, you can tell us, because it seems this is a conversation Kenyans are having throughout. And if this is a problem, does it mean that there's an issue with the government? And what actually is the issue? Is it research, or because this seemingly is indeed what we call a legacy project of the Kenya Kwanza. And if it does not pass, then what then?
Well, let me say this, that the Kenya Kwanza government is treating Kenyans to an omnibus of confused policies. That is what I can summarize it into, because some of the policies they are now proposing to the people of Kenya were not there initially, even at the launch of their manifesto, which currently we don't know where it is deposited. The housing policy and the question of 3% they're talking about was never there. It is something they created immediately they got into the office. So the conclusion therein would be that there is some syndicate, some cartels within the government system that have found an opportunity that they are pushing president to implement so that they can benefit individually but not to the best interest of the people of Kenya. If you are telling people that they pay this much, for how long are they going to pay it? At what point would you effect transfer of that said house to them? You know, Because for me, it would appear like you are putting Kenyans in a perpetual debt arrangement. That they will pay today, you pay as a parent, your children will continue paying it, your grandchildren will continue paying, and the sequence goes on. Because if you look at it, it is a schedule that would go for over 100 years. And we do not have a surety of living beyond that number of years as a person, you know, considering that we are mortal human beings. And the only way you can own that house...
believe in the second coming of Christ.
Yes, the only way you do that is maybe let me pay, at some point, let my children pay. Who would have that kind of legacy that I'm leaving my children with a debt in the name of, you know, the desire to own a home? We have, in our villages, we have ancestral land. If we are supported in a better way, we can go and build our homes there. This is a confused policy that the government need to reconsider. And I think our parliamentarians should stop joking with the role that was donated to them. They need to apply the principle of, you know, veil of ignorance, and know that the best interest of the people supersedes the individual interest, and they need to make sound and objective decision around this bill. Thank you.
Let me interject a little bit. Being an economist, you see, housing patterns in Kenya depends on how the market is. When market is good, many people construct their homes. Actually, by IEA, they noticed that most of the owned homes, Kenyans actually built it themselves. Not that they were built for by another person, they were actually building it for themselves. So, and when you look during Kibaki's regime, when the economy grew very well, people were able to purchase their own land, they were able to build their own homes. So I wish Kenya Kwanza government would actually focus on an enabling environment where Kenyans can do their business, where Kenyans can do their work. Once Kenyans are able to be economically empowered, they don't need to be built for homes, because research has shown that most of the owned homes have actually been built by Kenyans themselves. So I think even when the government is trying to cajole us and to manipulate us to tell us that if you decide you don't want to own a home, after 7 years, you can get back your money. But now the question is, will this money have earned an interest? Because if I put my money in a savings account in a bank, even if it's earning 0.5% interest, I am assured after the 7 years it will have made an interest. But apparently, when the PS for housing comes and says, if you don't want a house, then after your 7 years, come and take your money back. But now my question is, why was my money laying idle for 7 years? I would have invested somewhere within the 7 years, would have accumulated. So people are bringing up suggestion and saying, why don't, if it's true that the government is having a deficit, because this house levy, for me, the way I look at it, it is a way of the government trying to raise a fund to cover up itself. But now borrow silently and then use it in the name, after 7 years we'll get it back. But now the question is, why can the government then approach Kenyans to give them an infrastructure bond so as to be able to run the government? Why must it be hidden in the name of a house? Then after 7 years has come. Now in conclusion is this. Now, if after the 7 years, we know a regime maximum goes for 10 years. So what happens when a new regime comes and then decides that the money you put for the housing levy, we do no longer consider it, we don't know even where the money, who will protect the Kenyans? Because you see, like an infrastructure board, if I enter into an infrastructure board with the government, it means even if a new regime can, they have to honor it because it's protected by the law. So now this housing levy, who is even actually protecting this levy? That is the questions Kenyans are asking. Then that's why Kenyans are asking, is my money safe? Because already with NSSF, we know of people, as much as it's enacted in parliament, we know people who, when they go to get their pension, they're taken in rounds and in circles and in circles. But the beauty of it, because it's protected by the constitution, you're assured at the end of the day you're going to get your money. So this housing levy, and I wish the members of parliament, I know it's good to go to parliament, they should reject it on the base, is it constitutional to begin with?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that actually leads us to the next question, which I'd love us to talk about. When we talk about the parliament, because we have seen the Kenya Kwanza government has actually whipped his people. The other time they had a PG meeting continuously telling them and that this is right for Kenyans. And the president and even the PS for housing, we have seen many government Yes, we have seen many government officials actually trying to talk about this issue, the finance bill, and they want it passed as it is. Then the time Cherargei, senator, was saying that if we do not pass the finance bill as it is, we are actually going to, it is not going to be right with the government. The Kenya Kwanza is actually not going to do what it actually wanted for Kenyans. Generally, what do you think, if this finance bill is passed, what will it portend for Kenyans? And actually, what can Kenyans do next if this is not what they really want?
Number one, thank you so much for that question. It's a fundamental question you've asked, because we are in a country where we believe that it is us versus them. And that feeling or that an idea has really taken us back as a nation. We are in a stage where as Kenyans, we have to decide our fate. And there is something we've been repeating, calling it Kenya Kwanza government. There is no Kenya Kwanza government. We have Kenya Kwanza administration. Government is all of us. There's a chief in the village who did not vote for Kenya Kwanza, and he belonged to the government. So government is all of us, and this issue of threatening us that it must be passed, the administration has no power to intimidate Kenyans. I believe that the members of parliament has a role donated to them, I love Wakili word, by Kenyan people, because sovereign of this nation belong to the Kenyan people. And we've donated that power to them to be able to vote in parliament. They should vote fundamentally on the issues that affect our nation without looking at whether they are in Kenya Kwanza or in Azimio or wherever they are. Because at the end of the day, this is where the bipartisan approach comes in. Is it good for your voters? Because that's the first question a member of parliament should ask themselves. Is what I'm passing good for my voters? Number two, is it good for my nation? And if it is not, like this one is not, then government cannot claim to intimidate anyone.
Okay, let me come to Wakili. Wakili, you've been listening so much, and you have actually even mentioned bipartisan talks.
Yes.
And when the bipartisan talks began, actually, the main aim was to have a conversation with the government, that is the opposition and the government, to ensure that whatever agreement that they came to was that which benefits Kenyans. At this time where there is a stalemate among Kenyans, or even in the bipartisan teams, they want to talk about what is right for Kenyans. There's a stalemate. What is the progress of these bipartisan talks, and how can even now the Kenyans who feel aggrieved that the finance bill can actually pass, because Kenya Kwanza government has got a super majority, there's a chance that it's going to pass. How can Kenyans address this, even as bipartisan talks is still on the rocks as well? Wakili.
Well, the bipartisan talk as it is now is a halted process because recently Azimio side, of course, made a pronouncement to the effect that they're not willing to continue with the process until the ground rules that they had tabled are honored. So we want to believe that that is still in process. But the main issue here that should not be lost on us is the fact that we have a principle of separation of power, which is a constitutional absolute and a fundamental principle of constitutionalism in our country. It is anchored in our constitution, and parliamentarians must at all times, live to that fact. The problem we have comes in where now they are invisible hands of the executive that tends to influence the operations of the legislature. Whereas legislature is supposed to be, doing a checkmating role to the government, so that where the government comes with such punitive policies, such as what we have currently in this country, they are supposed to come in handy and ensure that is shut down and should not see the light of the day. However, we suffer as a country some elements, from certain elements of incompetence in our leadership, because you understand that there are certain members of parliament who are there and they do not know anything about finance bill. For them, it is like, they are just choir members who, you know, dance and sing to the tutelage of the choir master. So they are told to do like this, that is what they do. And if you tend to bring a contrary opinion that is objective, that is sustainable, you know, they begin to say, to question your loyalty. So what I can say in conclusion is that I don't believe much that we're going to get as a matter of objectivity, you know, a reasoned decision on this issue of finance bill. What we'll see is about the tyranny of numbers and buying parliamentarians to pass the bill to benefit an individual and syndicates, cartels who are within the government. But to sit down and wait that these people are going to give you something that is better, that will address what Atieno, you know, Wanjiru or Nafula would want, that will never happen. We have another option as a country, the option of, you know, demonstration that people can actually resort to, where leaders do not adhere to the contractual arrangement between them and their leaders. So they have the freedom to go to the street and tell the government that enough is enough. What you are telling us should not be the case.
Okay. This is quite hypothetical because actually, even in serious issues where Kenyans are debating on matters of life and death, we have had discussions based around politics of who supports who, what are they going to support. How can we ensure, just as it's talked about separation of powers, when you talk about maybe the parliament, how can we ensure that actually we have a parliament that debates on issues based on their understanding or based on actually what the bills are and not on the basis of who they support or the political affiliations. And that will actually, that leads to the question that a one-party state, do you think a one-party state will then make Kenyans start looking at things different way? Because now we are all Kenyans in one state and then in one party, and then we look at issues.
Okay. The beauty of our current constitutions, it has given Kenyans the mandate to take matters in their hand when their government becomes very punitive. And as much as my brother has said people to demonstrate, but we have a judicial system. There is a route we can use of a judicial system, because if we have members of parliament cajoled to actually pass this bill and the Kenyans themselves, they feel it's very much punitive, there's always the judicial way. There's always where we can petition. We don't have to destroy our own roads. We don't have to destroy our businesses. We don't have to destroy the things that we have really worked very hard to build. There's always an alternative. There's always where we write our petitions. I'm grateful right now the GMO petition by the court was halted. So the government has been told, based on the petitions the Kenyans presented in a court of law, the government now no longer has to push for the GMO, although the Kenyan government has appealed, but that shows you the route which the Kenyan people have gone. A one-party state is very dangerous for this country because we are African, and as much as we say we are African and Africa is our business, we need someone who can counter-check power, because you see, absolute power is very dangerous. It can manipulate people to the extremes. So what we need to have is a very vibrant opposition party, very vibrant opposition people, very vibrant Kenyan citizens, whereby they have the leeway to arise and say, this is not what we want. I know our MPs were paid money and they decided to pass this law, but we can arise and say no as Kenyans through various organizations, through various channels, whereby even the judiciary in itself is a checker. It's supposed to be also a check of the government. It's not. It's supposed to be at least neutral.
Okay, Cairo. Sir, I'm told because of time we'll make our parting shots, so I'll start with you kindly. You give your parting shots on this subject generally.
Generally, my conclusion is that the administration of Kenya Kwanza is sitting on a powder keg. We are creating a very dangerous environment where we have millions of youths, 800,000 every year, who are jobless, basically doing drugs. taking illicit brews that is now killing close to 4.5% of the population through what you call digestive cancer. These people are boiling up. Depression is high. Very soon we'll not be talking about protests. And my sister here said that we can go legal way. You cannot take government to court for lies. We've been lied to so many times. We talk about economic growth in paper. They say economy has grown by 5.2% when inflation is 8%. That's a negative growth because you're giving me 5.2 and you're taking away 8. Those are lies. So the administration should stop with the lie. We should stop conning Kenyan people. We should start respecting youth. Open up space. I've talked about internship. Let's increase internship to 30% in the private sector. Let's talk about labor unions. KOTU has collapsed, I can tell you for sure. It's at the end of corruption and people are confused. Let's have a time limit for this trade union so that new changes, new leadership can bring in new hope. We have minimum wage that has never been implemented. People are still earning 10,000 when minimum wage is 16,000. Karen Nyamu is talking about increasing it to 22%. Can 22%, 22,000, can 22,000 keep somebody living in Nairobi, even in a house of 6,000? It cannot. Minimum wage should be at least minimum at 35,000 and without tax. You get. So that is how serious this thing is. If they pass the finance bill as it is, I can assure you, in 2 years we'll be having a dangerous scenario in Kenya.
Yes.
In 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, I would say what Kenya Kwanza government needs to do is strengthen our economic institutions and strengthen our political institutions. These are the institutions that are going to create an environment for proper businesses to grow. And if we are able to increase a better environment for people to be economically empowered, then the government will be able to raise its revenues and be able to cater for the needs that is trying to do using this finance bill. I would challenge the members of parliament, please reject this finance bill for the sake of that ordinary Kenyan whose budget is so much restricted, because right now we are downsizing on our budgets so that at least we can survive for at least another year, and maybe then we could actually table now this finance bill that the Kenya Kwanza government is trying to push.
Wakili.
Well, thank you. I would equally want to say that we have a sleeping lion in our constitution, as well as various statutes that we have in this country. One of them is public-private partnership, which I believe the country has not actually adopted to its fullest ability. If they can go that direction, we can actually tap a lot. Instead of, taxing people who do not have anything to give you, involve public-private partnership arrangements pursuant to public-private act, so that you can gain a lot out of it, and from which you get more tax, since many people will be employed. That's my parting shot for tonight.
Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for this very intentional and deliberate conversation on the finance bill. As we get to espouse these issues, of course, through the lenses of various stakeholders who also happen to be citizens of this country. Well, that is what we do here every Friday on The Insight, getting to make these conversations deliberate and, of course, hot for you to get to understand things that actually affect you. Well, 2144 is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa Eugene Ochieng. On behalf of everyone who has made this a success, I want to wish you a very good night and see you next Friday.